bridge the gaps. As many as we can, anyway. The story isn't fully complete because it's still happening all around us. We've come so far.
We still have such a long way to go.
But we knew now was the time to tell this story before it faded from memory. Because, at its heart, this is a story of people who were tired of waiting and who said, let's do this thing. Let's do it ourselves. And let's do it now. Before by Jeff Yang. Where do we begin? Or rather, when did we begin? If you go by the history books, Asians have been in America since the 19th century, when Chinese immigrants toiled to build the infrastructure of America's manifest destiny and fed the hungry bellies of gold-struck prospectors, and, after hours, took a turn at panning the glittering streams of California themselves. If you go by the records that never seem to make it into the textbooks, Asians have been in America since Filipino slaves jumped ship from Spanish galleons in Louisiana in the 1760s, where they built secret villages in the swamplands, hid from their kidnappers, fished to survive, and eventually were recruited to defend a young America from a new British invasion in 1812. If you crawl through the weird fringes of antiquarianism, you'll find people who claim that a Chinese admiral landed his fleet of ships on the east coast of the United States in 1421, that Japanese fishermen discovered America in the 13th century, that wandering Buddhist monks floated to a place called Fusang, California maybe, in AD 499. And if you dive down into evolutionary anthropology, you'll probably read about the Bering Land Bridge crossed by ancient Asian migrants who trekked over from Siberia some 16,000 years ago and spread out all across what's now America. But none of these moments, real or fake, really answer the question of when Asian America began. Because none of the protagonists in these journeys ever thought of themselves as Asian. After all, Asia is a huge landmass made up of wildly disparate states, most of whom have spent centuries trying hard to kill each other, or alternatively, trying hard to resist killing each other. It's difficult to imagine that these remarkably different people might choose to identify as a collective group, which makes the term Asian meaningless. In Asia, anyway. Inventing Asian America. But this is America, and in America, not only does Asian mean something, we can pinpoint when that meaning came into being and where. In May 1968, in the apartment of two grad students, Yuji Ijeoma and Emma G., at 2005 Hearst Avenue in Berkeley, California. During the late 60s, UC Berkeley and other San Francisco Bay Area universities bubbled with activist activity, carbon-charged by the fight for civil rights, the rise of the Black Power movement, and growing outrage over the war in Vietnam. Ijeoma and G recognized that the absence of a common banner under which to rally made activists of Asian descent invisible. They decided it was time to found an organization to unify, amplify, and uplift these voices, to allow them to stand side by side and shoulder to shoulder with Black, Chicano, and Native liberation movements. But what would this group be called? The answer emerged from the first organization meeting that took place in the living room of Ijeoma and G's apartment after they had made cold calls to every activist they could find who had a Chinese, Japanese, or other quote-unquote Oriental-sounding surname. The half-dozen students who gathered to plan the nascent group's June 2 kickoff, Ijeoma, G, Ijeoma's brother Victor, Vichy Wang, Floyd Hune, and Richard Aoki, dubbed themselves the Asian American Political Alliance, coining Asian American in emulation of their Afro-American fellows in the fight. A point that Ijeoma made abundantly clear in a statement that stands as something of a manifesto. Asian Americans have been and still are used politically to the detriment of oppressed minorities. AAPA will break the silence of the Asian American community on the issues now confronting America, a nation which shows every evidence of liquidating Black people and is waging the politically and morally insane war in Vietnam. We must redefine our relationship to the Black, Mexican American, and Indian liberation movements because all existing organizations in our community are too committed to the status